Hello, I'm excited to demonstrate this wonderful system that has really brought me a lot of success. And this is a very condensed mini training that really builds upon the idea that whatever you track, you tend to reinforce in your day to day life. So if you track something, you start to think about it more throughout the day after a period of tracking. And it has the effect of you really starting to remember to integrate certain things that you want to build in as habits. Now, I've kind of taken this a step further, and a lot of this is based upon um, The Atomic Habits, which is a great book, as well as some of my project management training, and also uh, some very, very reinforcing data and research that indicates that if you do something for 33 days, it really builds and reinforces. If you do something for 33 days, it changes your neural patterning, so you really start to really develop a habit, and it becomes something that is very positive in creating transformation. So this is a Google Sheets. This is a Google Sheets. I'll arrange this a little bit. And I have in this column right here created the different things in my life that I have really done work on, that I feel that I want to really integrate into my life in a very powerful way. Now, I have quite a few things that I track, and this also serves with a second row that I've placed above. And by the way, this little thing right here, if you pull this down on a Google Sheets, then you can go like this. You can scroll up and down, and these headings will stay the same. You just have to pull the little divider down to isolate these so that they stay headings. So I use a date, and I actually just started, but in April you can see that I have really a fresh one, a fresh month ready for me. And just a little bit of a pro tip is you want to duplicate this before you start to fill out the month, because otherwise you have to erase all the different forms that you've already filled out. So these are either process criterion or they're goals. Now with goals, I kind of, if I have a goal of creating a project in a month, I may have separate tasks, and I usually work on a system called Asana for task management. And one of these categories up here is usually to track my tasks. But this is the way this works. After I find the things that I want to track, and you'll see as I kind of go through these, the next thing I do on the row above is I put in times where I am reserving times to do these things as priorities. So I'm going to kind of go over this, and you can see how this works. Now, the first thing I want to track is I want to track myself getting up at dawn every day. Dawn up here in this time of year is 7 a.m. So I have a T right here, which means time, which means I get up and I walk outside for at least 15 minutes to get the rays of the sun. So I track this. Let's say I slept in, and I'll put 8:30. But the goal is to do 7. And the first thing I do when I wake up is I do affirmations. And then I have a period of meditation. And then these two things are things that I want to track throughout the day, which are basically my level of devotion and my what I call presencing and expression of love throughout the day. So I put them over here because I want to kind of remind myself right at the beginning of the day. Because as soon as I come to my computer, and these first few things I already have memorized, I already know. But I sit down in front of my computer and I start to track as the day goes on. Now this is a new system than the thing I've done before. And this is why I'm really excited about this, because it's really given me, I already erased February, but it's giving me a lot of good results. And then I always like reading, exercise, and like an hour of healthcare, and food and supplements, and then I have a part-time job at Healing Oasis. All of these things are a priority before 12 o'clock noon. So I have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 5 hours to really focus on these things as my priority. And TS is time spent. So and then if you see a little checkbox here, and you can just Google checkbox to put this in. And this is just, I simply accomplished it, but this I track how much time I did. Like, like I'll do exercise, and with healthcare, I also put notes in here. Like you notice here, there's some notes, 1 hour a day, or Square One Chris Work Training. It's an online course I'm doing in cancer care. So 1 hour a day, I do healthcare 1 hour a day, and occasionally I'll do Square One Chris Work Training. I don't have any specifics about this, but if you go to the notes here, I have a little more specific. The Healing Oasis, it's my part-time job. It's only 10 hours a week. But Radical Remissions, I want to do 3 hours a week. So you notice right here, I tracked how much time I did with the Healing Oasis, which was 2. And this way, I can really see that I'm making my weekly goal. All right. So anyway, now it's 12 o'clock, and I have a different set of priorities. And I really put these as to the priority that I want to do them in. Like exercise is incredibly important to me. It's even more important than my healthcare, which is actually research. But once it's 12 o'clock, I'll probably have a good amount of these done, or I'm going to pay attention, like devotion and presence of love. I'm going to kind of keep those in mind, because I'll probably at the end of the day go back and track that, or even the previous day. But once 12 o'clock rolls around, I have this thing called backlog. It's just it's work that I owe clients, and I have 12 hours a week. So time spent, I will track how many hours of this. VLD is a Voluntary League of Disciples. This is actually a spiritual thing that I track. And if I don't have any, like a TS or an N or like an initial, I'm simply rating it as 1 to 9. Like the amount of silence, take position. That's a little task. Or reading holiday. All these things are specific to this VLD service that I do. And to the extent that I do it in the day, I'll rate myself 1 through 8, like maybe a 3. So some of these things I rate, some of these things I will do the actual time spent. Some I will actually put the time of the day that I do in a task, and some of them I just check off. You'll see there's check marks on some of these other ones here. All right, so then we get to 2 o'clock. Oh, also I also spend the time spent. I spend outdoors. It's important to me right around then to get some outdoors time, because that's when the rays of the sun will give you the most vitamin D. So at 2 o'clock, I have a different set of priorities. And I'm not going to go over all of these, but they're specific to the business I run, which is coaching. I'm not going to tell you too much about them, but N just means the number. Like, for example, I make connections and invitations, in my coaching practice. So I will track the number of invitations I made, the number of this. And you can always customize this to how it works for you. But from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. is another 5 hours, which I just focus on my business. Now, sometimes things don't always go exactly. Sometimes you need to spend more time on other things and this isn't this is simply a blueprint that you can kind of, and the power of this blueprint is it really, sometimes I absolutely don't feel like doing one of these things, but I will look ahead and see another thing that I can do. This way, if you keep it less rigid and just kind of strike a great balance between this structure and how your body's feeling and what the priorities are at this specific amount of time, and kind of loosen the reins a bit, because systems sometimes they shouldn't run you. You should create something that works for you, but then always kind of pivot and tweak it into what you are getting the most effects from. And for me, this works really well because I tend to be a little ADD about things. I'll tend to get distracted very easily, and then I can just always come back to here. So at 7 p.m., the first thing I do is another hour meditation, and I check that off. Then I have specific evening projects that I do right up until, and again, I can put in notes for these. This is a project that I'm doing for the place I live. It's a workshop that I'm designing. So you get to 9 o'clock, and this is where I start to wind down. I also have, on weekends, I take days, I'm a little more loose about this. But here we go, 3 times a week. I do something called my life project, and then my money book I do 3 times a week too. So it's like 6 days. And at 10:30, actually, I have a little disparity here. It's 10:30. I do an introspection exercise. Oops, I'm correct actually. It's 10 o'clock here and 10:30 here. So I actually, you can even get rid of that note. And then I retire. So that's how this system works. It's like a daily tracking that guides you through the day. And when you do this for 33 days, for some reason that's around the ballpark where it starts to reset your habits and to set your brain. So the things you want to track are really they're really in your head, and you'll notice real miracles come from this system. Enjoy.